Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us today about pivoting your law career to happiness. Today, you're going to be meeting Corinne Boudreau, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who left her traditional law career to become an online legal resource by developing a course curriculum for small business owners on legal essentials. Welcome to the show, Corinne.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. I know we're going to have a great conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent and are challenging for you in your life as well as being a business owner. So let's start by you telling us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and what it was like to be a lawyer.
So my entrepreneurial journey started about 10 years ago now. Although if I really reflect on it, I think I wanted to be an entrepreneur before that. I went to business school, just out of high school. And
Wow.
I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but at that time, and it's funny looking back on it now, there were no entrepreneurial courses. So I thought you had to invent Velcro in order to be an entrepreneur. So, and again, that sounds a bit silly now because entrepreneurship is very much infused into business programs. So it took me a while of doing other things. So eventually, after spending a lot of time traveling and selling vacuum cleaners door to door and doing all kinds of other crazy things.
Did you really sell a vacuum cleaner?
I did. Yeah, I was very bad, very, very bad at it. But I did all those things and then ended up at law school and then got a very traditional legal job, which I was very appreciative of with one of the biggest, I think it was one of the top 20 law firms in Canada. So I really cut my teeth with a lot of great lawyers. We had some great clients who were doing all kinds of things. So, you really hone your skills. But then at some point, and it was, like I say, it was about, maybe it's about 13 years ago now that I left my big law firm. I had 2 small children and I really had what I now call the soul sucking situation, which I wrote a song about.
The SSS.
SSS, yes. And then I decided, and I don't know, I think this just came about because of my specialty. So I always did business law and tax. And I had an accountant who I'd been working with a lot and then ended up there, of course, a giant professional services firm for a short period of time. And then that's really when I took the leap to entrepreneurship. So because of that I call it my sojourn at Deloitte, I really started my entrepreneurial journey without knowing what I was going to do. And I say this again, I ended up starting a virtual law practice, but I didn't have any clients and I didn't have any, I think I felt like I started with a blank slate because I didn't walk across the street with a bunch of clients. So I think that was great in retrospect because it allowed me to start, like I say, with a blank slate. But I also started hanging out in different spaces. Hanging out where entrepreneurs hung out instead of where lawyers hung out. I had a lot of lawyer colleagues who wanted me to come and share office space with them. And I said, you know what? If I'm going to do this differently, I need to put myself in a different physical space as well. So I started working out of a co-working space and really surrounding myself with a lot of other entrepreneurs. So I think
I love that. That was so smart.
Yeah, I don't know where that idea came from, but
you're smart. Come on now, you are smart.
Intuitively, I felt that if I wanted to do things differently, I needed to do all the things differently.
Right.
So that's really where it started. So I started a virtual law practice working out of a co-working space in 2013. And that sounds more normal now, but back then it really was quite odd. I had a lot of people saying, well, where's your office? And I'm like, well, it's kind of, it's kind of online, so I still would physically meet with clients, but I really reoriented the way that I did everything so that I could be working online and had a very niche practice and went to fixed fees. So that was the other really one of the foundational pieces at that time, which again was quite odd at the time to say, everything I'm going to do, we're going to start with an engagement letter. We're going to say it's going to be fixed fees. And what that does was it really put the onus on me to be efficient and to really do things that I really knew very well and to share, I think, some of that risk with clients. Whereas I think the root of a lot of the problems that I saw in law, I still think come from billing by the hour. So that was really
I love the clarity that you were getting. And yeah, I totally see. Well, now as an entrepreneur, you can see how smart that was to streamline and automate certain parts of your business.
Yeah. So that was kind of phase one, start a virtual law practice. Of course, everyone's entrepreneurial journey has different phases and pivots and whatever we want to call them. One of the next kind of, I guess, touchstone events was I got a call from a local business advisor. I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, so the Center for Women in Business. I always give her props, Nora Perry. She called me and said, I'm always getting legal questions, and we have some funding through the province for what's called workplace education. Would you be interested in developing a curriculum for legal stuff? And I said, I said, sure, that sounds great. So she'd known, I'd previously taught at, again, a university in town here, Dalhousie. I had taught business law to dental students, and I taught business law to law students. But I had never taught business law before to entrepreneurs. But I did have a sense, again, from practicing for many years, what some of the foundational pieces should be. So the next phase of that was creating a 40-hour curriculum for entrepreneurs through, that was live and in person.
I'm just grinning over here, Corinne, because I love this story. I love how this amazing idea / opportunity came to you and you said yes. But it came to you and you had this other experience. Like it was, I don't even know if this woman knew how perfect you were for this job, but it sounds like you were perfect for this gig.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of me developing a relationship with her identifying a problem, and then, and me saying yes. I say yes to all kinds of things.
That's an entrepreneurial skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Even though you don't know how that you're going to work that out.
Right.
So like I said, that was kind of the second part. So I developed that, and I still teach that live course. I'm in the midst of one. So I deliver it to different business associations and groups around the province in Nova Scotia. Then I also realized, though, hang on a second, I'm in little old Nova Scotia here. And I say that, for any of your listeners all across the country or the world, there's a big push here to export. When you live in a smaller place, you need to look for clients elsewhere. And I thought, you know what, these online courses, I just dipped my toe into the waters of my first online course. And I thought, if I'm going to spend all this time and effort making this course curriculum, I should really make it into an online course. So that was kind of the next phase of my entrepreneurial journey. And wow, you think, I'm just going to record some videos and upload them somewhere, and then I have a course, and then everybody will just come and buy it. You don't realize all of the other things. You need an email list, and you need landing pages, and funnels and all this stuff. So I did a very deep dive into the world of online courses, mostly through Amy Porterfield. So she was kind of my online course person. I found myself going to San Diego like 3 times in the span of about 18 months, going to different events. And
you went to her live stuff?
I went to her live stuff. Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
And her flagship program right now for any of the Amy Porterfield followers is Digital Course Academy, or DCA. So I was actually part of kind of a test group. There were 100 of us when she was trying to put together 2 of her previous courses, she was kind of trying out the DCA materials on us before DCA officially came out.
No, that's great. Of course, I signed up for that. It's awesome.
Yeah, there were 3 of us that hung out with her for 3 days. Like we were sitting on the floor, just like coming up with ideas. So that was a great experience.
That's so cool.
But it also kind of put me in this whole other world. When I say that I went to a co-working space first, this whole online course experience put me into this whole world of online entrepreneurs. So I became part of this whole community of online entrepreneurs and course creators and, subject matter experts that were trying to move from bricks and mortar and doing things in person to doing things online. And this was all, again, 2008, 2009, pre-pandemic. So
yeah, way.
But what's fascinated is then very quickly I sort of had, again, this unique ability to understand the online world and then understand the legal requirements that go along with that.
Yeah. And I'm remembering you said you started out in business. So you had it in you.
That's right. this was all floating around in my head already. So yeah, some of the marketing principles came back to me from my business degree in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. But again, we weren't talking about the online space then. That was way pre-internet or pre-internet that any of us were connecting ourselves to.
We were just getting computers. We were just getting used to having personal computers around that time. Yeah.
And also part of that community, there were a few lawyers in it, all from the US. And what is interesting when you compare the US legal market to the Canadian legal market is the US legal market is much more entrepreneurial, much more innovative. I think that comes from a couple of different spaces. One, I think it's just more competitive. There are more lawyers and per capita perhaps, but they're also just more innovative in nature. So when I saw what some of the other lawyers were doing, I could not find there were no Canadian lawyers doing anything like this at the time. There are now a couple, but it was interesting to talk to some of the people in the online space who are doing similar things, including some US-based attorneys, as they call themselves down there. So
yes. Amazing. So what happened then that you came up with what you have now? So you started out with a course, but now I know you have something a little different because I happen to have purchased it.
Yeah. Well, the very first thing I did was called Website Legal Essentials. So I ran it first as an in-person workshop. And I always say this, it's good to see the whites of people's eyes when you deliver material.
Yeah.
Then you can tell, are people confused? Does this make sense? So I have tried many times, and that's why I continue to teach live, just to try out new material. I sound like a stand-up comic right now, but it's kind of the same deal. So the first workshop I did was called Website Legal Essentials. So that was a nice, easy chunk to pick off. This is what you need on your business website legally. So I ran that in person and then put it online and then kind of tested all of my systems. I'm a Kajabi person. I met all the Kajabi team one of the times I was down in San Diego. I tried a bunch of others. At the time, Kajabi was the one I wanted to go with. So kind of tried with one smaller product.
Good idea.
All of the tech pieces. And then it became apparent, well, of course, there's lots of other things other than just what you need on your website. So I started to build out, again, what some people call like a signature program or a signature course. And this is another entrepreneurial lesson which came to me. I first called it, sometimes you can't even remember the old bad names for your product. I think it was called Online Legal Essentials for Canada, something like that. And so the first time I launched that early in 2019, that's what it was called. So I really talked more about the course content, which were the modules, more of the learning modules. Like these are the things you need to know about copyright. These are the things you need to know about trademarks, websites, privacy, all that stuff. But there were also templates included. So, but I really talked of it more of a course and then said, oh yeah, there's templates. When I asked people for feedback after the first launch, both the people that bought and then the people that didn't buy, the people that had bought said, oh, I love the templates. So that was really, and the more I talked to people who were going through it, that always came back. So I said, you know what? That's really what I should call it. I mean, it's template like that, if that's what people are resonating with. So that's where the name, the Canadian Online Legal Template Library came from. But it's part of saying, I know what you need, but I'm also going to give you what you want. You know, there's some blend in there of giving people what they want, but also what they need. So,
yeah. And when I'm thinking about my personal needs, when I don't need to know all the ins and outs and whys, it's a problem. I trust a lawyer to tell me the goods. I'm not questioning you, and I don't want to become the expert. I just want to know, what do I need to put on the bottom of my website? How do I make a coaching agreement? You know, what do I do? What do I do with the podcast? That kind of thing. Awesome.
Yeah. I also like to give some context though, because I think there are two different camps of people that buy my stuff. You've probably described one type person who's like, I need to get her done. I call her the get her done people. They're just like, that's a little bit of my Nova Scotia accent coming out there. Get her done. Here's the thing, download the thing. Tell me what to customize. I have videos that walk people through. I do also attract another group of people that are the detail-oriented people. And I love the detail-oriented people because they love to do things right. You know, they want to know all the details. So they need to know context. I get many questions about many things. And so for those people, I also have the more in-depth sort of guideposts of how do you feel comfortable knowing all that you need to know.
Yeah, that's great. That's totally not me. But I love those people in my life. I happen to be married to one of those people. He reads manuals in bed. Like, wow.
Right. Yeah, we all need those. I am more the visionary leader type. So yeah, I like to have the detail-oriented people in my life. But just knowing the more you launch something, the more you have people going through a program, you start to realize there are a couple of different profiles of people in there.
Definitely. And so is that the program that is what you have now?
That's right. Yeah, that's my main signature program, I guess I would call it. I still do have a store, which has some of the smaller bits. So that's more the, I guess, a la carte menu, the sides. For some people aren't quite there. They don't need the whole thing. They don't need the whole shebang. So
they just want the French fries.
They just want the side of whatever. So that they come to me that way. And some people go from the side to like, oh, now I realized actually I'm a little bit hungrier than that. Or my business is at a different stage. So then they tend to upgrade. And again, one of the things that's evolved, and I think, I always believe in listening to your customers. I had live Q&A. For a while it was inside a Facebook group. Now it's on Zoom. And so that's really evolved to figure out what kinds of questions people need answered. So it's really it's not one-on-one legal advice, but it's helping people get unstuck. So you might say, okay, I have a retreat coming up, or I'm starting a podcast, or I'm hiring someone. Where should I look? Do I have everything covered? Or maybe people get stuck on one part of a particular template and they want to come and get some feedback.
Yeah, I love that about your offer. And that's exactly what happened to me because I'd done retreats before. So I had a legal template that I used for a classic retreat situation. But then I had one coming up that was a little different because I wasn't the host. I kind of facilitated the group of people coming together, but the liability rested with the people, or the majority of the liability, or the obvious liability rested with the people who hosted the event. And so I thought, this is a gray area. Do I really need this? And I was spinning around on it and I was stuck. I did not know what to do. And I loved being able to hop on a quick Facebook call with you or a Zoom call and just get the answer and have a couple minutes just to hear a real lawyer answer the question. So good.
Yeah. And sometimes I talk about good, better, best, or like gold, silver, and bronze solutions, because we can't always implement. Sometimes I would say, okay, ideally, this is what you would do.
Yeah.
But again, here are some other alternatives and here are the risks. I think I actually did a podcast episode with my dad, who is a lawyer. And one of the nuggets that came out of that, he said, he was a lawyer for many years, and he said, entrepreneurs should not delegate decisions to their lawyer. So I was like, that's right. We give information. We help you figure out the risks and the issues. But I think ultimately entrepreneurs still need to make their own decisions, even about legal. So that's why I try to give enough context and options and, try to give a little bit more knowledge base to people as they go through my programs.
I love that. I love how you were open and you were really paying attention to not only what you needed to be happier at work, but also to what the people needed. So you picked up on that template by having some feedback. That was really great. You were open to making that shift. So, one of the things I love around here in this podcast is to talk about this weird little intersection of midlife rearing its ugly head sometimes and affecting the way we ideally want to run our businesses. So what would you say is the current challenge that you're facing with midlife when it comes to your business?
I think it's perimenopause and all of the weirdness of the symptoms that have been cropping up in the last year for me. So I take it that we are talking about all things menstrual cycles and everything on this.
Anything that's bugging you that's a midlife thing. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. So how's that showing up for you?
I joke with my friends that we now all do the vagina monologue. So I won't quite take you to that level. So I was always someone who had to plan my life around my menstrual cycle. And I say that, and some people, everyone has their own experience with their menstrual cycle, but mine was always that I needed to plan around it. So one of the things that came up in perimenopause is that it's no longer predictable.
Right.
Like I have an app on my phone. My daughter actually introduced me. I think it's been 4 or 5 years ago now to the app, the Flow app. So this is not, we're not sponsored here by the Flow app, but it has been a useful tool to keep track of it. But now it's all over the place. So again, for someone who used to try to plan things in business and in life around their cycle,
wow,
it's kind of all over the place. And, lack of sleep. Somewhere I found a list of all of this, like many symptoms of perimenopause. And I felt like, wow, I think I have them all, like anxiety, can't sleep, weird, just feeling kind of detached from my body sometimes. So, and as an entrepreneur and as a content creator, sometimes you really have to like be fired up, and you have to feel comfortable putting yourself out there, creating content, connecting with people. And I am like, I think people would describe my normal state as being very chill and very personable. And sometimes now I have like, I really don't want to be around people and they kind of annoy me. So there's been a lot of strange symptoms that I haven't quite figured out yet.
I totally hear you. I never had mood swings with my periods my whole life. I was never somebody that affected, and I was very grateful for that. But when I was in perimenopause, I had these two very distinct, intense anger situations where I felt exactly what you were saying. I felt like I was out of my body, like that little Martian on Fred Flintstone. Remember him, the great Gazoo? He was always buzzing around. Yeah. I felt like I was like him, buzzing around, watching myself lose it. Of course, on the people I love the most, my family members. But I remember I was walking down the stairs and they were in the kitchen. And I remember looking at myself on the stairs and I just thought, I didn't think anything of it at the time. I didn't have the context. But then it happened again a couple weeks later, this just out of the blue, what should have been maybe a 6 or 7 on the annoyance scale was like a 15 to me. Mm-hmm. And when I finally spoke to my doctor about what you're talking about is figuring out where you're at with perimenopause, I pointed that out to her as she was prompting me. And she said, yeah, that's part of what's happening now, these mood swings. And I went, oh, I never even imagined myself to have a mood swing. But that anger, and again, I'm so grateful it didn't go on for more than 2 episodes. And I didn't do anything but yell. But wow, it felt so detached, exactly the way you're describing it. It was really weird. And I find like so many other things with women, like nobody was talking about it. I'm like, no, why am I so surprised and ignorant here?
Yeah. And on the physical side of things, I've always been an athlete. I grew up mostly playing basketball. So I played like varsity basketball in university. And then at some point after having my second child, switched to playing hockey. And so I've been playing hockey as an adult for the last 13 years.
Wow.
That's how I ended up in a band, because I met this group of women playing hockey. And then after hockey, we started going to Tim Hortons, as you do.
Of course.
To have a cup of tea. And then the discussion turned to, oh, I play the guitar. Oh, I play. So anyway, that's a whole other story, how I ended up in a band. But so this year, when it was time to sign up for hockey, and I play in it's a very recreational league. But the thing is, on my team, again, we've been a team in this league for about 10 years. Every time a 50 or 60-year-old retires, they get replaced with a 20-year-old. So even our rec division has gotten a lot younger. And at the end of last season, I watched one of my teammates, actually a couple of teammates, get severely injured. And I just thought, you know what? I feel so weird right now. I don't even want to play. I'm worried about getting hurt. And that's honestly, I'm pretty adventurous. That's not a thought that I had. So anyway, I'm sitting this year out. Hopefully I'll feel better by the time next year rolls around, or I might, find another activity. So it's been trying to find ways to adapt both my business and things on the personal side.
I love that you mentioned the worrying about getting hurt. I mean, that's why I stopped playing tennis, because it's like, okay, I love tennis and it's like running on concrete and I've already dealt with tennis elbow, but I just started to get worried about falling. And now my tap dancing class is starting again. There was a break for the pandemic. And the first thought is, ooh, I'm excited. And then, ooh, I'm worried about falling. And so I have never really wiped out, but I don't ski anymore either.
Yeah, I know. I've
It's
thought
freeing.
about skiing a few times this year, and I don't like that because, like I said, I've always been super adventurous. So
Yeah.
it's trying to find other things. So, like I said, luckily the music stuff has still been going on.
Thank
So
goodness.
that kind of taps into it. Really brings me a lot of joy and adrenaline, and even sometimes it's good exercise jumping around pretending we're rock stars. So yeah.
I just heard that Kiss is doing their final tour, and I heard them do an interview, and they're like 70.
Yeah. I can't
Yeah.
imagine at 70 being able to dance around and
Well, that's what they were saying, that it's quite physical, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we always used to debate among our group who both played hockey and did band. We would say, what is harder? What's more tiring? An hour of hockey, like a hockey game, or a gig? And I think, I don't know. Like, we never really resolved that. I think they're both different type of energy, but yeah, both very take a lot out of you.
Yeah, they do. I love that comparison, actually. That's really good.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, there's the freedom of being 50 plus that is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this other stuff. There's a bit of lack of freedom with this period cycle that's gone wonky and is now unpredictable.
I mean, I still most of the time, I think I feel the freedom that comes from being 50 more than the other stuff. And I feel like it's a temporary thing too. I say that a lot of my friends are a little bit older and have come out the other side of it now. And they say, oh yeah, like, this is a moment. This is a stage. You'll come out the other end of it. So I think that kind of brings me some hope. Yeah. And I do enjoy, especially having older children, like the joy of having them and having, much more mature relationships. As we record this, my teenage son actually shoveled. We had a big dump of snow last night, and he shoveled the driveway without either of us asking.
Aww.
I was like, what? Like, good moment. And my daughter was just back from reading week from her first year of university last week. So, getting to that stage of parenting, my parents are still they live close by and they're still very well. So I'm very thankful for that too. I appreciate all the moments that we have with them because who knows,
Yeah, exactly.
Most of my friends have lost a parent. So I think I'm still mostly in the good stage of the middle. But yeah, the physical symptoms and the lack of sleep, man, I'm like, one of my neighbors has a newborn. And I saw him out one day. I was walking the dog and he was walking his child in a stroller. I'm like, how you doing? He's like, he just had that look. And I'm thinking, yeah, we're both going through sleeplessness right now, but he's a lot younger. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah, you know what? It's real. And I'm just looking at the notes here and I see the name of your band. Tell us what it's called, please.
We are called the Mother Pluckers. Yeah.
Hilarious.
And so our hockey team started as the Mother Pucker. So when we started playing hockey band, then we just called ourselves the Mother Plucker. So
that's so hilarious. And I'm showing you here on Zoom. What I have on my desk is a beautiful lighted. It's a mirror, a 10 times magnification mirror with a light and my tweezers that live on my desk. So I'm ready at all times should anything bizarre happen around my chin.
That's good. That is a good thing to have.
Right there.
I always used to wonder why my mother would hang out in the car in the sunlight.
The lighting is the best for the plucking. Or I've been corrected, the tweezing.
Yeah.
The tweezing. So yeah, I love that. You do have a lot of great models for positive aging, which is really good. But being an entrepreneur as an older woman it really has some unique challenges and some unique opportunities. And I think you're capitalizing on all the opportunities, and the perimenopause will definitely keep moving forward.
I hope so.
I think it will. What would you say is the most surprising thing about your age and stage right now of your business, how it's all playing out for you? What's surprising?
I think it's that so many other women 50 plus are also starting businesses and are so fired up and maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but it's not uncommon for me to meet other women over 50 starting businesses and taking all that great skills and experience that they have and doing something kind of like a little bit radical, a little bit different, like we're shaking things up. So I think that's a pleasant surprise that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of. At least my 20-year-old self back in business school wouldn't have thought about that. So
yeah, that's so good. And things are really changing for older women. There's still, of course, ageism out there and everything. But when it comes to being an entrepreneur, it's somehow, it feels more empowering to take it on and just to really go after what's possible and what your priorities are and what lights you up. And that's exactly what you're doing. So, Corinne, thank you so much for taking time from your day and sharing all this. Please tell us the best place to get a hold of you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's great. When I saw the name of your podcast, I was like, that's definitely one I want to be on. So thank you for that. Thanks for having me. You can find me on my website, which is onlinelegalessentials.ca. So I have lots of resources and things on my website, including my podcast, links to my podcast, Get It in Writing, where I try to take very frequently asked questions and dive into them in a quick podcast episode. You can also find me on Instagram or TikTok. I'm trying the TikTok too.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Legal Guide Corinne. So those are my handles on both Instagram and TikTok.
Oh, I love that. I really appreciate how dedicated you are to making legal resources and legal issues so accessible. That is a real gift. And that really isn't that easy to find. And you're doing a great job at it. I totally love what you're doing. You're amazing. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot, Suzy.
All right. That's it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It is never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.